This will be the final video that I make regarding the whole vacation idea. And if you haven't watched the previous videos, then you don't really know a whole lot about inheritance or uh, the word extends when it comes to class building or inheritance hierarchy, you probably should consider watching some of the previous videos. Otherwise, welcome back. And I'm going to continue talking about this whole idea of building a vacation class and having a road trip extend vacation so that it inherits all of the vacation items there. And I'm also going to talk about family trip here. I'm going to return back to the code that I had in my last video and understanding that I've created a FAM1 family trip, and that family trip, of course, still has vacation items in it, like cost and miles, and also, of course, there's a fight in progress. I also have to remember that I have a whole lot of other things that family trip can access. Okay, family, I can stop the fight, and I can start the fight, and I can have a potty stop. So I'll just work on those, your standard family trip items right now. And so I could maybe before fight in progress, I decide to run fam1 dot stop fight. Okay, and so I'm just going to show you now that well, I've looked at this object fam1 and I've run the method inside of it called stop fight. And so now my fight in progress should become false when I run this instead of true. And so I'll run this and you can see that I'm going to get false. So now the fight in progress is no longer there. It's false. Okay, now um, I'll also be able to access FAM1 and oh no, somebody's got to go to the bathroom. Are we there yet? So I'm gonna do potty stop. Okay, so I've just had a potty stop. Now, just for fun, let's just throw a for loop in here for int I equals 0 and I is less than 5, and we'll increment I here in the for loop. And what I'm going to do actually is make this fam1 that will loop through the for loop. This is going to run 5 times, 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So it's going to run, we're going to have 5 potty stops right now. It's got a lot of, like, let's see. So what I should do is probably output the current state of fam1 dot number of potty stops. That's what I'm going to do. Okay, so I'm going to output that, and now after false, I should end up with 5. We have 5 potty stops right now here, and that's all great. So now I need to remember though that you notice that I did this output for these variables. I'm outputting the variables, just printing them to the screen so that I can see what they are. Not that you ever have to do that necessarily, but I'm doing it so I can see what they are. And in my previous video, I had paused for a moment, kind of skipped over something, but it's important to know that when I'm calling a method here, like fam1.pottyspot or stop, that I have to be a little bit careful. I'm not going to print that because I'm not really printing the method. The method isn't returning anything to me, and therefore it's not going to print the actual method. Now, if this was a method, a return method, or an accessor method, then I might be able to print it because I'd print whatever is passed back to me. Unfortunately, I didn't have an accessor method there, and so yeah, it was one of the reasons I had the error, and I glanced over it just to limit the size of my video. Now, looking at this, I have to understand that FAM1 is also a road trip, so I can look at FAM1 dot add state, which is this is what I was doing before, and I'm going to add the state of Florida like I had attempted there in that last video. And this time, you can see there's not going to be any error there, and there's no error there because I'm not printing it. The issue was I was trying to print it, if you were watching the last video, where this actually adds a state Florida. And so now I could take a look at, let's see, let's add another state there, fam1 dot add state, and let's see, I'd have to go, I'm driving out of Florida, now I'm entering Georgia, so I add Georgia onto the list. And now, um, inside of fam1, I do have an array list called states. I could try to access it somehow, and I could try to access fam1.states, because remember states is that array list inside of fam1, and maybe I dot get I want to get index 1. Okay, and so I'm going to get index 1, and it's not going to show it to me because I've retrieved it, but I probably should print it if I really want to see it. And so I will clean this up a little bit here. I'll print that, just print it to the screen so I know that it's there, and run this code. And there it is, it's Georgia. And so it has told me that it's Georgia here. And now, if you take a look at this, I can start driving up, or I should say out of, whatever. I'm going to just add random states here. I'm going to add state, and just for the sake of trying to get the other areas of the U.S. here, I'm going to put Maine. I know I can't. I know that you can't drive from Georgia straight to Maine, but I'm just adding some states here. I can add state. I could add Minnesota and add one more, dot add state, and I could add Washington State here. Okay, so now if I have to remember that this list here, this array list is inside of fam1, the family1 object or family vacation. And so I could be grabbing any of these. So if I do get 3, remember array list index number 0, 1, 2, 3, I'd actually be grabbing Minnesota this time when I run it. And there it is, outputting Minnesota for me. Okay, some of the things here I'll look at is, let's go back to cost. I have to remember that cost is actually inside of vacation here. There's cost, it's inside vacation. But right now I'm looking at my family trip called Fam1, and the cost right now, you can see my output window is 0 down here. But before I'm going to run this again, but this time right before that cost output, I am going to set the cost. So I want fam1 dot, you have to remember that set cost is actually in a vacation class, and I'm going to access it. It's in a super class. I'm going to access it, and set cost needed a parameter. I need to set the cost, so I'm going to set it to $3,000. My family vacation is going to cost me $3,000. So now when I run this, this fam1 cost is now should be 3,000 because I've actually changed that variable within my vacation there. fam1.setCost 3,000. And I see here that fam1.cost, it looks like, is not changing for me. It's just staying at 0. I'm going to run that one more time. It's still changing at 0. And after that, after I added this fam1.setCost to 3,000, I printed out the cost, and here now we have 3,000 as my new cost. So it's very important to remember, as was discussed in a lot of videos here lately, is that I have access as a family trip object to any of these things that I can grab and use and change my destination, my days, my cost. I can go on vacation, I can arrive home, I can add a state to my array list, I can record the miles on my family trip, I can start and stop fights, and I can have potty stops. And I can keep track of how many potty stops there are. So it's kind of a nice little summary there of how I used all of the code in these 3 classes that I've built throughout the previous few videos. Hope that helps you understand inheritance a little bit and how to extend and use and access code from other classes.